One could be tempted to portray J. Robert Oppenheimer as a tragic figure, a depiction that Christopher Nolan explores in the biopic Oppenheimer. He is known as the father of the atomic bomb, a man who spent his life grappling with the moral implications of his creation, an ultimate insider who experienced a humbling downfall, a hopeful scientist who inadvertently initiated the nuclear arms race. Yet, the term tragic may not entirely encapsulate him, as it is uncommon for tragic figures to indulge in retirement by sailing around the Caribbean. Alternatively, he might resemble a tragic figure akin to Lord Byron, intriguingly dark and mystical, remarkably charming, and astonishingly affluent. J. Robert Oppenheimer, a prominent physicist and the laboratory's director, witnessed the momentous event from a distance. Often referred to as the father of the atomic bomb, he watched with a mix of emotions as the bomb unleashed a towering mushroom cloud that soared to an altitude of 40,000 feet. His poignant account of that moment has since attained widespread recognition. He said, "I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, 'Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.'" I suppose we all thought that one way or another. On August 6th, the United States carried out a devastating act by dropping an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan, resulting in the annihilation of 90% of the city and causing the death of 80,000 people. Merely 3 days later, another bomb was unleashed upon Nagasaki, claiming the lives of 40,000 individuals. Tragically, tens of thousands more would succumb to the effects of radiation exposure. It was in the wake of these cataclysmic events that Japan eventually surrendered, leading to the conclusion of World War II. As news of the appalling destruction reached the scientists involved in the Manhattan Project, doubts and moral dilemmas began to surface. In late October, J. Robert Oppenheimer personally met with President Harry S. Truman, who had given the green light for the use of both atomic bombs. During this meeting, Oppenheimer raised the idea of establishing international controls on nuclear weapons. However, Truman's apprehension over the potential nuclear development by the Soviet Union led him to dismiss the proposal. According to author Paul Hamm, in his book Hiroshima-Nagasaki, The Real Story of the Atomic Bombings and Their Aftermath, when Oppenheimer expressed his sense of responsibility, feeling burdened by the bloodshed resulting from the atomic bombs, Truman responded with anger, asserting that the weight of responsibility rested on his own shoulders. He emphatically told the scientist, "The blood is on my hands, let me worry about that." Subsequently, Truman abruptly dismissed Oppenheimer from the Oval Office. Hamm is uncertain whether Oppenheimer's remorse stemmed solely from the bombing of Japan, as the scientist might have regarded it as a necessary but regrettable measure. Instead, Hamm believes that Oppenheimer's primary concern lay in the potential devastation that could arise from future nuclear conflicts. Following World War II, Oppenheimer took proactive measures to avert such a grim future. He collaborated with the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission to establish controls on the utilization of nuclear weapons. In 1949, when Truman proposed the development of a hydrogen bomb, Oppenheimer opposed the idea. In spite of his opposition, the United States proceeded to develop an H-bomb and conducted a test in 1952. Unfortunately, this resistance from J. Robert Oppenheimer came at a cost. He lost his position. During the McCarthy era, the government took away his job with the commission, citing not only his objection to the hydrogen bomb, but also alleging ties to communism. While the decision to blacklist Oppenheimer was primarily influenced by his stance on the H-bomb, rather than his associations with communist individuals, it still sparked a scandal that haunted him until his passing in 1967. For decades afterward, speculation persisted regarding whether he had any involvement as a Soviet spy. The entire process of the Republican show trial security hearing was undeniably absurd and unjust. Orchestrated by the manipulative former banker turned atomic energy advisor Lewis Strauss, it felt like a puppet show, and Oppenheimer found himself unjustly cast as the martyr. When the Democrats eventually returned to power at the White House, they sought to rectify this injustice by bestowing a special award upon him. During much of the 1950s and 1960s, Oppenheimer sought solace in his holiday home at Hawks Nest Bay, nestled on the picturesque Caribbean island of St. John. Here, he indulged in the finer things in life, including importing cases of champagne to savor in leisure. Alternatively, he would take to the seas, enjoying the serenity of his yacht as another escape from the tumultuous events that had transpired. In contrast, his brother Frank took a different path and joined the Communist Party in 1937. He passionately fought for the desegregation of his local swimming pool in Pasadena, displaying his commitment to social justice. Later on, he actively campaigned at Los Alamos, advocating for international arms control and disarmament efforts. However, his strong convictions and political affiliations led to dire consequences. Frank faced the harsh reality of being blacklisted from academia, which severely limited his professional opportunities. Additionally, he was denied a passport, hindering his ability to travel and collaborate internationally. Undeterred, he decided to embark on a new chapter in his life, spending the following decade as a cattle rancher. However, the most pivotal location in Oppenheimer's life was not the Upper West Side, the extravagant Bayshore mansion on Long Island, his bachelor pad in California, the Grand Manor in Princeton, or even his luxurious Caribbean island retreat. Instead, it was Los Alamos that held the central significance. This scientific base was constructed entirely from the ground up, nestled amidst the picturesque hills of northern New Mexico. Oppenheimer held a deep affection for this region, considering it his favorite part of the country. Remarkably, Los Alamos was merely a day's horse ride away from his beloved holiday home. The comparison is akin to envisioning the immense Intergovernmental Particle Physics Lab, CERN, being situated in the serene and pleasant English countryside of the Cotswolds. Los Alamos stood as a testament to human ingenuity and scientific prowess, much like CERN, and it played a pivotal role in shaping Oppenheimer's life and legacy. However, the clear hierarchy was apparent to those involved, including the soldiers responsible for menial tasks and the local indigenous women who took on housekeeping duties. Despite this, the numerous memoirs from the Manhattan Project era portray Los Alamos as more akin to the delightful summer camp it was before the war, rather than a clandestine government project dedicated to developing a weapon of mass destruction. Oppenheimer's pivotal role in history was as the scientific director of Los Alamos. However, his contribution to the Manhattan Project was not in the scientific breakthroughs themselves, as those were achieved by individuals like Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann, who demonstrated the feasibility of nuclear fission. Nor did he specialize in the design aspect, which was handled by experts like Robert Christie, responsible for creating the successful plutonium implosion device known as the Christie Gadget, tested at Trinity Site near Los Alamos and later dropped on Nagasaki. Furthermore, Oppenheimer's direction did not primarily focus on the budget allocation, as approximately 90% of General Leslie Groves's Manhattan Project budget was devoted to the Fordist feats of administration, logistics, and industrial engineering. These efforts were concentrated on the Oak Ridge and Hanford production plants, which tirelessly churned out the crucial plutonium and enriched uranium used to power the atom bombs. In hindsight, it becomes evident that their concerns were misguided. Historical records reveal that the Nazis had already decided against pursuing a nuclear fission program by 1942. Their priorities lay in acquiring raw materials and manpower for armaments production, and their scientists doubted that a bomb could be developed and delivered in time to significantly impact the war in Europe, a notion that ultimately proved to be accurate. Thus, the Manhattan Project, with its sense of urgency and determination, was built on a misconception. The scientists were operating under the belief that their work would deter Hitler from developing and utilizing a bomb, which, in reality, was not the case. The hindsight perspective sheds light on the complex dynamics that shaped this crucial chapter in history. The primary consequence of the Manhattan Project was the advancement of the nuclear era and the rapid onset of the nuclear arms race. Toby Ord, a researcher studying existential risks, refers to this period as the precipice, a time when humanity faces the first real potential to self-destruct. It is doubtful that the United States would have committed to the same degree of urgency, allocating 0.4% of its GDP if the project were pursued during peacetime. Lewis Strauss, Oppenheimer's adversary, may have been partially correct in his accusations, albeit for the wrong reasons, suggesting that Oppenheimer inadvertently aided the Soviet nuclear program. Without the secrets of the Manhattan Project to rely on, the Soviets would have faced significant delays in their own nuclear pursuits. Szilard and Albert Einstein, who initially advocated for the project with their 1939 letter, urging President Franklin Roosevelt to initiate the US nuclear program, later regarded it as the greatest mistake of their lives. However, this mistake wasn't a mere oversight. Joseph Rotblat, the only scientist to resign from the Manhattan Project, experienced a troubling revelation during a dinner with Groves in May 1944. Groves revealed that the project's main objective was to subdue the Russians. Subsequently, Groves testified that he had no illusions about Russia being the enemy shortly after he assumed control of the project, a sentiment that seems cold and calculating, contrasting sharply with Matt Damon's portrayal of Groves in Christopher Nolan's film. The complexities and moral dilemmas surrounding the Manhattan Project are difficult to reconcile, reflecting the magnitude of the decisions made during that critical period in history. In his defense, it could be argued that Oppenheimer was, to some degree, coerced or misled into his involvement with the project. As a result, he may have unknowingly influenced his fellow scientists to participate as well. The complexities of Oppenheimer's role in the Manhattan Project and the ethical dilemmas he faced continue to be subjects of debate and speculation. Oppenheimer's involvement in the Manhattan Project did grant him prestige and privileged access. Nevertheless, he squandered these opportunities by losing 4 crucial political battles concerning the use and future of nuclear weapons. These battles included disputes over conducting a demonstration attack, initiating talks during the Potsdam Conference, proposing arms control measures after the war, and deciding against pursuing the development of the immensely powerful hydrogen bomb. The first encounter between Oppenheimer and Truman after the atomic bombings of Japan was charged with frustration and emotion. In a moment of candor, Oppenheimer blurted out, "There is blood on my hands." Truman carried this statement with him for years, often retelling and embellishing the anecdote. At one point, he claimed to have pulled out his handkerchief and sarcastically offered it to Oppenheimer, saying, "Well, here, would you like to wipe your hands?" The exchange left Truman deeply unsettled, and he labeled Oppenheimer a crybaby scientist. From that point on, the trust between them was shattered, and Truman never fully trusted Oppenheimer again. However, Oppenheimer later acknowledged that this plan was both impractical and naive. The Soviet Union, under Stalin's rule, would never have agreed to relinquish sovereignty, submit to inspections, or cooperate to the extent demanded by the plan with the capitalist West. Bernard Baruch, who proposed the ultimately unsuccessful Baruch Plan, became a convenient scapegoat for its failure. When contemplating Oppenheimer's legacy, several descriptions come to mind. Some view him as a tragic martyr, echoing the famous quote, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." So, that's all from today's video. If you enjoyed it, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell icon so you never miss our upcoming videos. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section. Stay tuned, and we will catch you in the next video.